You know that one person who almost never posts? Maybe it's a close friend. Maybe it's someone you follow who hasn't updated their profile in years. Or maybe it's you. While everyone else is uploading beach photos, food shots, gym selfies, and life updates in real time, that person is just living. No captions, no filters, no proof that it happened. And from the outside, it might look like they're missing out. But what if they're not? What if they've quietly figured out something the rest of us are still chasing? There's this strange truth about social media. The less you feel the need to prove your life online, the more real your life tends to feel offline. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you posted? Now think about this. When was the last time you almost posted but didn't? That moment right there, that hesitation, is interesting. Because somewhere between opening the camera and tapping share, your brain runs a lightning-fast calculation. Will people like this? Does this look good enough? Is this interesting enough? Will this make me seem successful, attractive, happy? Is it worth sharing with 247 followers I barely talk to anymore? That split second reveals a lot. We like to believe we post spontaneously, but most of the time, we're editing ourselves in real time. A sociologist named Irving Goffman once explained that we all wear masks in social situations. We present different versions of ourselves depending on who's watching. At work, we act one way. With friends, another. With family, maybe something else entirely. Social media didn't invent that instinct. It just amplified it. Now the stage isn't a room with 10 people. It's potentially thousands. And it's permanent. One awkward caption doesn't just fade away. It sits there. Anyone can scroll back. Anyone can judge it months or years later. So when someone chooses not to post, they're not necessarily disengaged. They might just be opting out of the performance. Interestingly, research shows that around 30 to 40% of social media users rarely post anything at all. Researchers sometimes call them lurkers. It sounds a little sinister, like they're hiding in the shadows. But when psychologists started looking deeper, they found something more human. Studies published in journals like Frontiers in Psychology suggest that when you mix constant comparison, fear of judgment, privacy concerns, and subtle pressure to stay active, it creates emotional fatigue, anxiety, exhaustion. And when your brain feels overwhelmed like that, it does something very simple. It protects you. Instead of performing, you observe. Think about what scrolling does to you. You see someone's promotion, someone's engagement, someone's new car, someone's candid vacation photo that took 17 tries. Even if you logically know it's curated, your subconscious doesn't care. It just registers. They're ahead. They're happier. They're doing better. Comparison isn't just unhelpful. It's corrosive. And there's a psychological framework called self-determination theory that says humans thrive when they feel autonomy, when their choices come from within, not from external pressure. Now, think about social media. It's essentially a validation system. Your worth is translated into numbers: likes, comments, shares, views. When those numbers go up, you feel rewarded. When they stall, you question yourself. People who don't post often aren't antisocial. They're guarding their autonomy. They're saying, I don't want my confidence to be decided by an algorithm. Research also shows that individuals with more secure self-esteem, people who don't depend heavily on outside approval, often feel less urge to broadcast their lives. They might scroll to stay informed or entertained, but they don't feel compelled to announce every milestone. And if you think about someone you know who rarely posts, ask yourself, are they unhappy? Are they isolated? Usually not. Often, they're deeply engaged in real life. They're having conversations that never make it to a feed. They're experiencing moments that aren't interrupted by framing the perfect shot. Here's something else most people don't notice. Even when you tell yourself social media isn't real, your brain still reacts as if it is. Psychologists have found that passive browsing alone increases comparison. You don't even have to post to feel the effects. Your mind absorbs the highlights of hundreds of lives and quietly stacks them against your random Tuesday afternoon. That's not a fair comparison. The people who choose not to post often recognize something subtle. The game is structured around appearance. Everyone else controls the lighting, the angle, the story. Why voluntarily enter a competition where you're constantly judged on a highlight reel? It's like entering a talent show where everyone edits their performance before you see it. And here's another pattern you might have noticed. Some people will spend hours watching long-form content on YouTube. They'll binge educational videos, documentaries, deep dives. But they avoid platforms built around personal updates and image curation. Why? Because watching a video doesn't demand that you perform. It doesn't ask, "Why haven't you posted lately?" It doesn't track your social participation in the same visible way. You can consume without being consumed. It's entertainment without the same social pressure. There's no expectation that you showcase your life in return. That's a powerful distinction. Another interesting pattern. People who rarely post often have fewer connections online, but deeper ones offline. They may not have thousands of followers, but they have 5 friends who genuinely know what's going on in their lives. And decades of research consistently show something simple. The quality of relationships predicts long-term happiness far more than the quantity of connections. 10 meaningful conversations beat 1,000 reactions. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Not posting doesn't mean not paying attention. In fact, many quiet users are extremely observant. They notice shifts in tone. They pick up on subtle changes in frequency. They sense when someone's online persona doesn't quite match reality. They're not disengaged. They're attentive. Psychologists talk about 2 types of self-consciousness. Public self-consciousness is when you constantly think about how others see you. Private self-consciousness is when you reflect on your own thoughts, values, and emotions. People who rarely post tend to lean toward the second. Instead of asking, "How will this look?" they ask, "How does this feel?" That difference matters. When you're not constantly curating your image, you have more mental space. Space to think, space to question, space to understand yourself without an audience watching. And that builds something incredibly strong, an identity that doesn't rely on applause. Choosing not to post isn't necessarily about fear. It can be about power. It's deciding that some parts of your life are too meaningful to turn into content. That some sunsets are better when you're not framing them. That some achievements feel richer when they're shared with a small circle instead of broadcasted. When you're not mentally drafting a caption during a conversation, you're fully in it, fully present. Research suggests that people who rarely post often experience fewer emotional swings tied to social feedback. Their mood isn't rising and falling based on notifications. They're playing a different game. And here's the paradox. The same traits that lead someone to step back from social media, self-awareness, emotional regulation, internal validation, are the very things social media claims to promote: connection, expression, community. Social media promised to bring us closer. But somewhere along the way, it became a performance economy. Silence started to feel suspicious. Not posting became unusual. Privacy began to look like absence. But maybe the people who opt out aren't rejecting connection. They're rejecting the conditions. They're saying, "I'll connect in person. I'll share in conversation. I'll show up in real time without turning my life into a show." So here's something worth sitting with. What if the people who don't post aren't behind? What if they're ahead? What if choosing depth over visibility, presence over performance, privacy over applause isn't antisocial at all? What if it's self-respect? At the end of life, very few people wish they had uploaded more photos, but many wish they had been more present, more honest, more immersed in the moment instead of documenting it. The quiet ones aren't hiding in darkness. They're just living in a space where the camera doesn't define the experience. And maybe that's not missing out. Maybe that's freedom. If this perspective resonated with you, consider subscribing for more conversations like this. And if you'd like to support deeper explorations like this one, you can join the channel as a member. It genuinely helps keep these discussions going.